So the Transformers movies, either you like them, you hate them, or you fall somewhere in the middle just like me, in which you can recognize their flaws. There are many flaws, but are still able to get some enjoyment out of them. In this video, I'll be going over the infamous Age of Extinction, and I'll be covering the myriad of errors that can be found in this movie. Now, while in recent years, Age of Extinction has been looked upon more fondly than before, at least more so than when it originally released, no movie is perfect, and the Transformers movies are certainly not. I'll be going over continuity errors, geographical errors, paleontology errors, animation errors, and filming errors. The support for this series has been phenomenal. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 have done surprisingly well, despite Paramount's continuous attempt to shut down the series. And unlike Part 1, where I covered 2007, Part 2 and Part 3 haven't been copyrighted yet. So thank you guys for your continued support, really means a lot. We managed to keep the Paramount bots away from these series, at least for the last 2 videos, so here's hoping we can go another video without Paramount meddling in our affairs. Also, if you haven't noticed, I've been making custom drawings for the thumbnails for this series. The first episode had face-palming jazz, second episode I did War Crime Size Wipe, third episode I did Rust Free Zone Ironhide, and for this episode I'll make something for Ratchet. I'm gonna be making a drawing for all the movies in this series, and I'll be turning those drawings into badges for YouTube membership. Make sure to become a channel member today to get exclusive access to videos which I haven't made public yet, special looks into upcoming videos, and access to the sweet handmade quality badges right next to your name, as well as fun emojis I made myself for you guys to enjoy. And also it helps the channel out and it helps me feed Squeaker, so I guess that's also a plus. Now, chances are I won't be able to cover every single error in this video. I might miss some stuff that's either too insignificant, it's not worth mentioning, or it literally just flew by past me, and I didn't notice. So if I miss any errors, let me know in the comments down below. Well, you guys will do that anyways, because so far in every single video people tell me, oh far you missed this. And yes, to be fair, I do end up missing some stuff, but some of you guys even suggest errors for movies I haven't covered yet, like The Last Night, the Bumblebee movie, the 1986 Transformers movie, and even Transformers Prime Beast Hunters. Which, after I'm done covering the live action movies, I'm gonna go back and do a part 2 for all the episodes I did, covering all the extra errors I missed, and you guys have let me know. And after that, I might upgrade the series to talking about errors in Transformers shows like Transformers Prime, G1, because oh my god, Lord knows there's a lot of errors to talk about in that series, and so on. So if that's something that interests you and you guys are okay with, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see what I do in the future. But now it's time to talk about the good, the bad, and all the silly errors in between that might be hiding in the background of this movie. You might as well say they're errors in disguise. But anyways, let's begin. So let's start with one that everyone notices. Ironhide is seen on the cards Antiger pulls out early in the film. He's listed as deceased and having been last seen in Chicago. However, Ironhide was killed by Sentinel Prime in Washington DC, and long before the final battle in Chicago. Also, funnily enough, neither Skids and Mudflap are listed as deceased on the cards, even though canonically it's implied that they are also dead. Because, originally in Dark of the Moon there was gonna be a scene where Sentinel Prime was gonna murder Skids and Mudflap. This even made it into the comics, and even in the novel. Just another example of an American man like Michael Bay not being good with geography. Shocker, am I right? And speaking of people that miraculously came back from the dead, Leftfoot is also not listed as deceased when he's clearly confirmed to be dead on screen till the footage Cage shows to the Autobots. By this point, Leftfoot should already be killed. He should already be listed as deceased on the cards, but he's not. So unless Skids, Mudflap, and Leftfoot magically came back from the dead, this counts as a continuity error. When Darcy's at the site in the Arctic, oh and by the way, Darcy is the scientist chick, the blonde one that is friends with Joshua. Yeah, if you forgot her name, I don't blame you. Humans are very forgettable, especially in this movie. The frozen Dinobots she sees do not appear until she walks up to them. In the establishing shot of the site, they are nowhere in sight, and in the shot where the site worker is pointing a shotgun at them, the only things seen in the background are the vehicles of the site, not the frozen Dinobots. They only pop into scene a little later when she gets closer. It's a very annoying continuity error. When Kate is forcing the real estate agent and the two buyers off his lawn, he threatens them with a baseball bat. The bat is in his right hand as the three get back inside the car. But as soon as the car begins to drive out of the lawn, the bat suddenly switched to his left hand. Continuity error? Or maybe a hint that Kate Yeager can use the Force like in Star Wars? You decide. Also, this won't be the first or last time Kate magically spawns them items or switches their positions from one shot to another. Get used to it. When Kate tells his blonde daughter, I forgot her name by the way, that he doesn't date and neither does she, which gets her very pissy angry and she storms off outside. Kate follows her, and as you see him leaving the shack, there's nothing in his hand, but what happens as soon as he leaves the shack? BAM! He suddenly has a power drill in one hand. Either this is a continuity error, or I like to think that Kate was so angry of having to deal with his bitchy dart, he grabbed a power drill and seriously considered finishing her off. He also had an adjustable wrench in the other hand, so wow, he was ready to go to town on her. Good thing this is a PG-13 movie, he managed to contain himself. When we have the secret Cemetery Wind Illuminati meeting, we see scenes from the Decepticon invasion of Chicago from the previous movie, and they're shown as archival footage presented by Attinger. While it is conceivable that some people with cameras maybe recorded the whole final fight and managed to survive and publish the footage, it's highly unlikely people will be able to get up close and personal to capture that video footage, especially with the Nest team taking down Barricade and the Decepticons. I know this is just Michael Bay's famous, reusing footage from other movies trope, but it's still an error. In the tragic scene when Ratchet gets hunted down by the evil humans, Ratchet's leg gets blown off. The largest part of his leg lands behind him. However, in the next shot when he gets surrounded, the leg is magically gone and is nowhere to be seen. Okay, now this is one that I always notice, and honestly, it's very distracting. When Cemetery Wind pursues Kate and his family, a Cemetery Wind vehicle smashes into the side of Shane's car during the chase through the cornfield. However, the car doesn't show any damage to the side in subsequent shots, and also, getting rammed by the side will, theoretically cause Shane's car to, just flip around in the air and be thrown at the side of the road. However, this doesn't happen, and I always found that very distracting. It honestly bothers me. It bothers me a lot. So after the chase and all that, we get that very pointless drag out scene of Tessa and Shane explaining to Kate that they've been dating for quite a while, and they also explain the whole Romeo and Juliet law thing, which in case you don't know, it's a law in Texas that basically allows anyone between the ages of 14 and 17 and legally give consent to have KIF with someone 3 years of their age. This means that an 18-year-old and 15-year-old will be able to have consensual KIF under Texas law. However, the reliance on the whole Romeo and Juliet law is unnecessary since the age of consent in Texas is 17. So it really didn't need to be explained, and Michael Bay wasted our time and almost risked getting this video demonetized, and we're just gonna move on right now because it's making me very uncomfortable. When the Autobots are reunited, it shows B, Crossers, and Drift in their vehicle modes all driving together. However, all of a sudden, Drift is up on the mountains and jumps off into his helicopter form. The main error here is that they were all together and then all of a sudden Drift is here. Unless there's two Drifts, which that's gonna be a theory video I'll do one day because that's now a very likely chance of being true. It's gonna count as an error. Now this is a fun one. After Drift transforms into a helicopter, Optimus Prime continues driving through the desert. If you pay close attention, eagle-eye viewers, you can see something interesting. Have you seen it? Look closer. Nah, I'm just kidding. In this shot, a camera truck can be seen reflected in the chrome bumper of Optimus Prime. If you watch my old errors of the first movie, this is something that happens quite often. Mirrors are Michael Bay's greatest enemy. So in this scene, Blonde Lady tells Joshua about the meteorite that caused the dinosaurs to become extinct. She mentions that the piece of metal in question has been carbonated dated to 65 million BC. But actually, lady, you're wrong, because I know my dinosaurs and I know my history. Carbon dating is limited to around 40,000 years. For longer time periods, potassium argon dating or other techniques are used. Additionally, carbon dating is used for life forms and not for metal. Where did this lady get her paleontology degree? The cereal box. Shortly thereafter, when the Autobots are about to go raid KSI, and I mean the company, not the YouTuber, Bumblebee acquires a new Camaro look. Tessa and Shane are inside of him while he's, transforming, shifting, changing, whatever you want to call it. And after the new look is complete, you get a camera shot in front of Bumblebee where you can see that no one is inside the car. However, in the next shot, both of them are sitting back in it. Or maybe, hear me out, Bumblebee is a magician and he just did the tried and true method of making objects disappear and then bringing them back into reality. And just maybe that also explains how he got his weird ability in TLK. And Michael Bay sucks, okay? That's the joke. When Bumblebee drives up to the KSI building, he swerves the car around to face the building, ready to ram it. However, before this happens, the tire marks are actually visible on the ground before he swerves the car. This is probably most likely from a previous take. They didn't get it right the first time, so they had to do it again. And here you can see the aftermath of that failed attempt. Later during the highway chase, when Galvatron is firing his rockets on the Autobots, a flatbed truck swerves into the back of an RB, causing it to flip over and explode. However, there's no driver in the RB. But I'll give Michael Bay the benefit of the doubt this one time, and you know, maybe people have become more aware of spotting Transformers around them, and as soon as he saw that there were robots shooting each other, he just left the car in the middle of the road. Very irresponsible of the guy, but I need to give him props for his fight or flight response. Optimus and the car Tessa is trapped in are caught in a net and are pulled up to lock down ship. Kate then jumps and grabs onto the net while it's being raised. There's a brief moment where Optimus is not visible inside the front of the net, before being magically visible again in the next shot. The CGI artist likely forgot to add Optimus Prime to the shot during the post-production. It's okay guys, it happens to the best of us. So adding visibility to the ongoing list of Optimus Prime's weird unexplained weaponry and powers. Now this is one that probably most of you noticed, but it's one that for some reason doesn't get talked about much. When the Autobots and the humans infiltrate the Night Telos to rescue Optimus Prime and Kate's blonde daughter, when Crosser and Drift are talking, a very bizarre edit occurs. In the middle of Drift's line, "Better hurry, because Dark Matter drives are preparing to take off." That was a horrible Drift impression, I'm sorry. The camera angle is now slightly different than before, but it's not a switch between a long shot and a close-up, or a complete change of perspective. Oddly, Drift is still seen from almost the exact same angle as before the edit. But even though his and Crosser's bodies were at an almost 90-degree angle before the edit, they are now suddenly almost standing in parallel to each other, with Crosser's head turned towards Drift. In addition, a flame that appears in front of Drift just before the edit is suddenly gone. It's so weird and bizarre, like, how did they miss this? How did you miss this? Once Crossers hijacks one of Lockdown's ships and they get pursued across the city by Lockdown's mercenaries, Bumblebee, standing on the back of the ship, shoots a grapple hook at a good-sized fishing boat, and then flings it up into the path of the enemy ship, destroying one. But this is where physics fails. Not only do I not believe that Bumblebee alone doesn't have the strength to pull something that big out of the water, but the ship they're on is not affected at all. Yet B is standing on it and uses brute force to lift a heavy object into the path of an identical ship very swiftly. And the ship they're on does not even get phased by the action. At the very least, the ship should have suddenly bugged down in attitude from the sudden additional weight of the ship being grappled and pulled on, having effects similar to an anchor, as well as B's motion in jerking it upward really fast, having an equal and opposite reaction to the ship he's standing on. The point is, you can't lift up something that heavy and not have some kind of recoil on you or your platform. So this ship should have crashed down much earlier. But then again, Michael Bay is not only bad at geography, he's also bad at physics. Also, I know I keep making fun of Michael Bay a lot. This is just for fun. Michael Bay, for watching this, I don't hate you. I actually kind of like your movies. So, please don't sue me. When Joshua reunites with the rest of the group in Hong Kong, Blonde Lady tells him that she will do a diversion and to get the seeds somewhere safe. However, we never see what sort of diversion she did to help them. For all we know, she probably just went to the supermarket and just bought a pack of Pepsi or whatever. But since we're at the topic of people saying they're gonna do something and then we don't see what that something was, towards the end of the film, when Optimus Prime is fighting Lockdown and the KSI drones are basically a non-factor by this point, the Autobots are scoring the seed outside the city, where the Dinobots alongside Crossers get into fighting position, ready to block the bridge from any incoming enemies. However, we don't see any other KSI drones appear or try to stop them or get in their way. We instead see the KSI drones arriving at the factory where Optimus Prime and Lockdown had their final battle. For some reason, which, not that I think about it, why are the KSI drones there? there. The whole point of the battle is to get their hands on the seed and, detonate it in the quote-unquote largest city.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
So why are they not going after the seed? Why are they here? It makes no sense why they're here. Unless Lockdown has another seed they can use, I don't see why they're even here. Counts as an error. When Cade, Hound, and Bumblebee are fighting off the Cytrons, you can see that Cade is wearing a black jacket in one shot. Then he's seen hiding behind a pillar wearing a green shirt. And then, before he pulls the pin on Hound's grenade, you can see him remove his jacket, revealing the green shirt underneath. So I'm guessing Cade just couldn't decide what kind of fashion he wanted to wear while killing the highly advanced and competent KSI drones. So indecisive. Reminds me of someone from the previous video. Okay, this is one that everyone knows about. Everyone knows this error, so just gonna get it out of the way. After Lockdown stabs Optimus, then he changes his priority from Optimus to Cade. Cade runs closer and shoots at Lockdown. He then hides behind some bricks. In that shot, the bricks are a broken wall that is two separate pieces. But then, it cuts to a different shot as Lockdown returns fire at Cade, and now the wall is magically back to being one piece. Not only this, but then some random guy suddenly appears out of nowhere in the next shot and right where the explosion happens. It looked like he even got caught in the explosion. Where did this magical person came from? I don't know, but he's here now. I'm gonna call him George. But suddenly George's Transformers live action debut was cut short because he gets shortly thereafter blasted by Lockdown. Poor guy. He only had 5 seconds to shine. He still lasted longer than half the robots from the movies. But that's not the only time some random nobody appears in the middle of the final battle. In the final battle scene, just after Bumblebee knocks Lockdown, Cade shouts, "Get out of here now!" And it cuts to our beloved human characters about to get into a tow truck. In this shot, the reflection of a crew member, most likely a cameraman, can be seen briefly reflected on the door of the tow truck. I like to think that that's George. He survived being shot by Lockdown and is now trying to get away from the battle.
Live to fight another day, boys. Live to fight another day.
During the scene where human characters are running for their lives on the roof of the huge apartment building, when the KSI drones are shooting at them, the long shot of them running shows a few crew members crouching against a wall alongside a camera and another crew member crouching down in the brick doorway. I like to think that this is an error and this is just people, trying to catch a piece of the action for YouTube clicks. I'll watch it, honestly. They probably posted it on YouTube later that day, being like, the Decepticons attacking Chinese rooftops. Not clickbait gone wrong. When Cade fights the cemetery win agent, I forgot his name. I think I made it very clear by now that I really don't care about any of the humans in this series. When they're both fighting, Cade jams his thumb deep into his eye socket. And we even hear a very disgusting squelch sound effect. And we see the cemetery win agent, appropriately in pain. I mean, he's getting his eyes squeezed. However, as soon as the two of them separate, his eye is absolutely fine. It's like nothing even happened. He should look like Omni-Man where his bloodshot eyes are invincible. But I'm guessing that Michael Bay probably cut this because, this is supposed to be a PG-13 movie. Even though it references Romeo and Juliet laws, there's a bunch of dirty humor, and probably one of the most messed up human death scenes in all of these movies. So, yeah, totally a kids movie. Anyways, remember Cade's stupid jacket? Well, it's back. During Hound's fight with the two-head shockwave drone, Cade is seen wearing his jacket, but then reverts back to his shirt following the Decepticons' defeat. Let's go back to the beginning. During the Cemetery Win Illuminati meeting, if you pay close attention when you see RC's card, RC's name is actually misspelled. It actually says Cree. And it uses an image of Elita 1, so that's an error double whammy there. Now, I think this is hilarious because years later, in the interview that Michael Bay had about his movies and, the vehicles that he had in them, he had a hard time trying to remember the names of the robot characters. And this just goes to show that even all the way back then, Michael Bay just didn't care and couldn't even remember the names from his characters back then. This is hilarious. It's just like poetry. It rhymes. When Athinger takes over the operation to scramble Cemetery Win and chase after Optimus, he dismisses everyone in the room. And he does so by telling them, "Ladies and gentlemen, this room is going dark. The exit is on your left." However, all the people get up and walk towards the right. I think that's hilarious. Black Cop CIA agent doesn't even know what direction the exit is. I think that's kind of funny. Now, I think this is a cool callback to the 2007 movie Errors I did, but the timeline for the day where Cemetery Wind chases after Optimus is kind of a mess. From the deployment of Cemetery Wind to Lucas's death, the time of day is kind of in limbo. For example, Optimus escapes from the Jaeger property at sunset, joining the pursuit that takes place in the early afternoon. Not to mention that Cemetery Wind arrives at the Jaeger's hometown at what appears to be dawn. In some instances, repeated changes between shots correspond with changes between different times of day, as different positions of the sun result in the very obviously different lighting conditions. Takes you back to the old days of 2007, doesn't it? Where the day and night cycle was all over the place, and just reinforced my theory that Transformers movies take place in an alternate world that works under the Minecraft day and night cycle. In the shot of Shane's car pulling up outside the Jaeger farm, you can see that nobody's inside the vehicle. Now, when I first saw the movie, I was kinda hoping that this was like a little hint that, you know, the RC car was gonna transform, because the Age of Extinction tournament actually does have a robot version of this character. It goes by Rollbar. I even made a video about him. However, we then find out that he was just being driven by Shane, who inexplicably went invisible
Stealth
in this
activated.
scene. This is another error that I noticed. It always confused me, but after the fat human dies, there is nothing stopping Lockdown or Cemetery Wind from continuing chasing Optimus Prime. Everyone kind of just stops after he dies. Lockdown is a much faster vehicle and could easily catch up to Optimus Prime, while Cemetery Wind still has plenty of remaining vehicles as well as aerial superiority, which might add was never shot down at any point during that chase. So there was really no real reason for them to not continue chase, other than, you know, movie needs to happen. The statement that Drift says about, you know, saying that the wisdom he just spoke is just a haiku, it's not really a haiku. I don't know what he just said, but it's definitely not a haiku. Haikus are poems that generally consist of 3 separate statements in a 5 to 7 syllable pattern. The one mentioned in the film is a single unbroken statement that totals to 17 syllables, that a haiku technically consists of, but it really isn't. If you doubt me, there's a haiku checker online. Here, I type in Drift's so-called haiku, and as you can see, not a haiku. I'm sorry, good sir, but that counts as cultural appropriation. He's gonna get cancelled off Twitter, just you watch. So staying with this scene, something else that always, and I mean always, bothered me, and I think like this is just reflecting as to how messy this movie is. Hound's dialogue when he's bickering with Drift doesn't really match up to what we see. Drift pulls out his swords on Hound, but Hound says pull it, suggesting that Drift is holding some kind of gun. Maybe originally Drift was intended to, you know, have some kind of gun or weapon besides his swords. This is just a remnant of that. Megatron's head seems surprisingly in good shape for someone who, you know, got an axe stabbed on the top of their head. Furthermore, his head is more in line with its appearance in the first movie and not so much Dark of the Moon. Like, listen! Dark of the Moon and Age of Extinction side by side. This is not a match. And here is the first movie in Age of Extinction side by side. See, we got a perfect match right here. Then again, this kinda gets excused by the fact that Michael Bay does not watch his own movies and he doesn't even remember a single thing from them. We all know this error. When all of us are raiding the KSI facility, the security guards just don't react to the shot of gunfire till a little later. That always took me out of the movie. I think Michael Bay just left it there because he thought it was funny. Because there's no way that was an intentional error. I want to give the man the benefit of the doubt. When Lockdown fires 2 missiles at Optimus Prime, one pierces his chest. Like, we clearly see the damage. He's clearly in pain. However, we don't see any kind of visible damage on his person, despite the previous shots showing Optimus' chest getting blown apart. Man, Optimus Prime not only has invisibility, but he also has Wolverine's crazy regenerative power. Man, I need to do a power scaling video on him stat. When Tessa gets taken into the trash in Lockdown ship, where she kinda belongs, a green screen can be seen at the end of the corridor. What's up with this movie and all the, you know, behind the scenes production just like making it into the scenes? That's so weird. I don't think there was this many production errors in the previous 2 videos, and we're not even halfway there with all the errors, believe it or not. This is one that always distracted me, but Han goes through hell in Hong Kong. You know, gets shot a bunch, gets blown up. In subsequent shots, all that battle damage is gone. Which is kinda weird because the movie's pretty consistent with the battle damage most of the time that Optimus Prime takes, but Hound just magically goes back to being back to 100% by the end of the movie. Maybe Optimus Prime is not the only one with Wolverine's crazy regenerative abilities. During the final fight, when Bumblebee just appears midway through it, he's seen nowhere after that. Like, as soon as Optimus Prime and the humans kill Lockdown, Bumblebee just magically gets forgotten. They are not like, hey Bumblebee, you should get out of here, I'm gonna set out Lockdown's grenade. It's like Bumblebee was never there to begin with. Clearly was a very late addition into the fight, and maybe Michael Bay forgot about him, kinda like how he forgot about Barricade in the first movie. Just magically came back out of nowhere for the final scene of the movie. It's weird. It's something that always bothers me about that fight. Like, as much as I like that fight, Bumblebee magically appearing and disappearing, it's very distracting. That last fight has a lot of errors, not that I think about it. This movie is very flawed, not that I think about it. Guys, okay, real talk. As I'm recording this, and looking throughout the movie and all these sites for errors and stuff, I'm like, yeah, Age of Extinction had a bunch of errors, but it's not that many. It's gonna be cool. But now that I'm, like, making this is off script, holy this movie is a complete mess in terms of errors. After Optimus Prime takes off, the other Autobots are absent from the show of the main cast, watching Optimus fly off. Which I think it's kinda funny because the last thing Optimus tells them is to protect the humans while he's gone. And I like to think that the first thing they did as soon as Optimus took to the sky is just step out of there and ditch the humans in Hong Kong. That's kinda unintentionally funny. No, Prime, we're not gonna help these humans. We're gonna go after the Lockdown ship and leave the planet. Screw humanity. This is an error I always point out when I talk about Age of Extinction, but Patron says to detonate the seed in the quote-unquote largest city. However, Hong Kong is not even the largest city in China. The actual largest city is... I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that. I don't speak Chinese.
重庆.
There we go, that one. I don't know if you all know this, but real dinosaurs are not that big, and the Dinobots should realistically not be that big if they're trying to emulate real-life dinosaurs. However, interestingly enough, in an interesting twist, and I think this is actually kinda cool, not even a slight against Michael Bay, using Optimus as a proxy for the average human, all the dinosaurs bar Strafe have been accurately scaled up at 850 tons, 63.5 feet tall, from feet to horns, and 150 feet long from tail to muzzle. Grimlock is as large compared to Optimus as a real Tyrannosaurus will be next to a regular human. So in a weird kind of way, while the proportions are wrong, if Optimus were a real human, the Dinobots in their dinosaur forms are actually scaled up accurately. I know it's kind of weird, it's still kind of an error, but it's a cool error, okay? I'm not against giving Michael Bay credit or just having fun. That goes in my book as a cool error. But yeah guys, those are all the errors that I could crank into this video. I'm not even halfway there with the errors. I'm not even kidding. There's a few more, there's a bunch of more errors I couldn't cram into this video because of time. This video is already long enough and I don't want to keep on, editing and working more on this than I have to. When I finish making an errors video for The Last Night and the Bumblebee movie, I'll go back to the previous episodes in the series and I'll make a part 2 for all of them. And I'll cover the remaining errors that I didn't cover in each respective part. But next episode will be all about The Last Night, and I'll tell you I'm not looking forward to that. Because if you haven't noticed, as the series goes on, the videos are getting larger and the errors are more and more and more. So The Last Night, it wouldn't surprise me if it turns out being 1 hour long, because by default that movie's a mess. So I'm not looking forward to recording that video. I'm really not. But if you guys were to, I don't know, hit this video with 1,000 likes, give me 50,000 views, donate a bunch of money to my Patreon, maybe become a channel member so you can get access to this sweet, amazing drawings I made. Maybe that will give me the motivation to work on the next video a bit quicker. Wink, wink. But in all seriousness, what do you guys think? Did you know about some of these errors? Did you not know about them? Will you not be able to unsee some of these now that I pointed them out? And also keep in mind that this series is just for fun. I'm doing this error series not because I hate Transformers or I hate the Transformers movies. It's because I think it's fun. I think it's fun poking at the, errors that the production and Michael Bay do. I don't really hate the people that worked on it, much less Michael Bay, despite what some people think. So needless to say, I'm still not looking forward to The Last Night. That's gonna be painful. But hey, it's my duty as a responsible and good YouTuber to deliver that video to you guys. Eventually. Hopefully it won't take that long. But yeah, as always guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully you all enjoy. Let me know what drawing I should do for the last night. Since I did Jazz for 2007, Sasua for Revenge of the Fallen, Ironhide for Dark of the Moon, and now Ratchet for Age of Extinction, I think it's only fitting that for the last night I do Optimus, and for the Bumblebee movie I do Bumblebee. So give me some ideas as to what drawing I should do for Optimus in the next video. And if I like the idea, I will not only make it, but I will also turn it into a channel badge for YouTube membership. So that'll be pretty cool. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I am not looking forward to the last night. Not looking forward to it. Bye guys. Anyways guys, before we go, shout out to our amazing patrons: Xavier the God, Stitch Productions, Scrub Lordo, Allspark Studios, Epic Nin, Lord Racer, Transformers Gears and Brawn, that's quite a long name, Optination Reviews, Joshua, and our newest patron Jane. And an even bigger shout out to our even bigger patrons, Geraldine the Great, and our newest top tier patron named K High, or Namek High, how would you pronounce that? And X23, who donated a amount of money. By donating to my Patreon, you get quite a few rewards. Get a shout out to you and your YouTube channel in the description down below. You get to collab with me in some of my videos if you so choose to. You can request some artwork from me, get exclusive early access to some of my videos, and some other projects I'm currently working on in the background. And I'm constantly updating the Patreon with brand new rewards and new content for you guys to enjoy. And a bunch of other stuff I plan to make public in the future. Be sure to check out my Patreon's YouTube channels, they're all gonna be in the description down below. They also do some really cool content over there that is surely worth your time. Keep in mind this is 100% optional since freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Thank you guys so much for donating, it's much appreciated. And I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Stay safe guys.